Hey folks, Quill18 here. This is the first of a series of videos about tabletop Dungeons and Dragons, real Dungeons and Dragons, pen and paper Dungeons and Dragons. The videos are all going to be titled. There'll be a tag in there to let you know what it is. So if you're not interested in this because it's not a computer game, then feel free to skip it. But otherwise, there you go. I'm going to be running an actual game of this online using a few online tools with some of the subscribers to this channel. If you head over to towerdive.com, to my website there, and go into the forums, you can see all the information about it and how it's coming together. And one of the things is the players aren't going to require owning all the books. And so some of them are going to need me to make characters for them. So that's what I'm going to do here. I'm going to build some of the characters based on some of their requests. And even if they do end up getting the books, or this, I'm doing this because I have a subscription to Dungeons & Dragons Insider. It's just a subscription service that gives you access to basically all the rules to the game online, plus this character builder, plus some other tools, plus the Dungeons magazines that have lots of adventures, and Dragon magazine, and all these other things. It's about $10 per month. It's cheaper if you buy it by 3 months or by the year or something like that. So yeah, I'm going to be building the characters this way. And even for people who may have the books, maybe this will just give them an idea about how to put something together, and they can go and redo it themselves and customize it if they would like. This character in particular is going to be for someone named Niiks, who has requested a human fighter, two-handed weapon, two-handed weapon fighter type grr person, who's still kind of tough, but he wants to be a damage dealer sort of first. So we're going to look at creating that. So I'm going to start off by creating a custom character. I'm going to choose the home campaign setting, which means nothing fancy, just a standard thing, and I was worried about that. Let me reload this page. And I can't reload it because of fucking Silverlight, because it's a piece of garbage. Okay, that's good. Because I screwed something up initially that caused the pop-up to go kind of wonky. And so now we're going to have to wait for this. Alright, there we go. So now we can choose our class. Now, classes in Dungeons & Dragons 4th edition are divided into 4 major groups. Now, despite the fact that something fits in a group, there's actually quite a lot of spillover. A lot of these classes might have one sort of as more of a primary role, and then have another 1 or 2 as a secondary role. So it's not restrictive, really. Starting from, let's say we'll start from the bottom. Strikers tend to be really good at dealing a lot of damage to a single target. They tend to hit fairly hard, but usually against a single target is their focus. A leader it does a couple of different things. Generally speaking, they tend to provide a lot of buffs and benefits. They support your group as a whole. They can also provide healing. Like clerics classically do a lot of healing, whereas a martial actually improves the party by giving them buffs like, on your next attack you're going to get a big bonus to hit, and right this second you can move for free. Even though it's not your turn, you can move now, get yourself in a better position so that next turn when you hit, and you'll be hitting for more damage and this and that. So they enable other characters to be better and tend to do lots of really cool stuff. And the interesting thing about 4th edition is, let's say you're a cleric and you're healing. Well, while you're healing, you're still hitting enemies. So you're not healing as opposed to getting involved in the combat. So all the classes tend to be very, very fun, very exciting. And a lot of them can still lay down some pretty serious beats, actually. It's quite amazing. We're going to ignore the hybrid thing. Defenders are your more classic tank characters. They tend to have very, very good defenses, and they also have ways to ensure that enemies focus on them. Now, this is not a computer game, so you're not just hitting the taunt button and have the enemy, oh, I guess I'm going to hit you for the next 6 seconds, you'll be at the top of my aggro table, doom-da-doom-da-doom. No, it's not like that. These are games being run by people. A dungeon master, an actual person, is controlling the monsters. But what happens is, for example, with someone like a fighter, the knight or the weapon master builds here, a fighter will place themselves, they have certain powers and abilities that place enemies in a situation where if the enemy goes and attacks them enough, if they turn away from the fighter and try to engage against, the squishy wizard or something like that, the fighter is going to get to hit them for free. And because the harassment is so intense, they're actually going to have a reduced chance to hit your squishy characters. So the enemies will be incentivized to focus on you, the tank, but it's not a computer game, so they still get, there's still free will going on there, and sometimes the dungeon master may decide that, no, the monster is really going to focus hard on the wizard because he's close to death, or he's doing something very dangerous, or whatever. And then we've got controllers. Controllers control the battlefield through a few different ways. Whereas strikers are very good at doing lots of damage to a single target, controllers are really good at doing somewhat less damage, but to a lot of people at once. And if you're in a fight that has a lot of minion-type creatures, minions are very weak but very numerous, a controller is very good at just blowing them all up and clearing the battlefield and allowing you to engage, say, the one big guy a lot easier. They also have ways of disabling or debuffing opponents, and also they can literally put down obstacles in the battlefield to help control the shape of it. Yeah, and a balanced party in Dungeons and Dragons will have one person with in each role, generally speaking. Or maybe, maybe you don't actually have a controller, but you have two people who have controller as a secondary role, so you kind of work it out. I can't remember if I said it or not, but I'm going to be looking at building a character for Niiks right now. Sorry about that. Niiks, who wanted a human fighter who used two-handed weapons, and while he's a fighter, which is classically in 4, you get kind of a defender role, he actually wants more of a striker build. He wants to be more of a damage dealer, but he'll still probably have some of the features of a defender, which means that he can protect his lesser party members while also beating the crap out of someone. So we're actually going to look at the striker, and they have a Slayer type fighter. So fighter is the actual class, but Slayer is the sort of build or flavor that's going to be applied, and it's going to help guide us to make the sort of character we're looking for. So you get some information down here. Primary stat for a fighter in general is strength, but for a Slayer in specific, dexterity is sort of a secondary statistic. That's also very important because of a few powers. So yeah, all right, we're going to take Slayer. That sounds good. We'll select that. Yeah, we've selected Slayer. That's good. Next, we do have to choose a class or a race, and there are many, many to choose from, although some are going to be better than others for your specific role. One thing is that human is always good. In 4th edition Dungeons & Dragons, humans can add +2 to any one stat. Whereas other races like half-orc, well, that's a bad example. Actually, a lot of these, here, Bladeling gets +2 to dexterity and +2 to wisdom. A half-orc actually gets to add, he always has +2 to dexterity, but then either +2 strength or constitution. So humans get to add +2 to any one stat, and they get a few other perks that makes them highly customizable, so they're never a bad choice. So we're going to pick human. Humans get a built-in power. If you miss with an attack roll or saving throw, you can just burn heroic effort off to add +4 to that roll. Maybe you were gonna miss, but now click, you turn it on, and hey, you hit. So that's pretty powerful. We'll also have to choose a language. Wow. You always know common. Everyone can always speak to each other in common, and then you got to pick a second. What if we hit choose from me? What does it suggest? Draconic? Sure. Draconic is the language of like lizard folk and dragons, and it also, at least when I grew up in Dungeons and Dragons, Draconic was also sort of like the Latin of the world. You'd find a lot of old documents written in Draconic, and sure, maybe because this is a fighter, and they tend to be fairly well trained. Maybe this character actually went to some sort of military college, got some sort of formal education in warfare. Entirely possible. I don't know exactly how Niiks is going to want to flavor it, but that's an idea. Of course, this can all be changed if that's unhappy. I'm going to name this character Niiks, and I'll leave the other fields blank here. He can choose what kind of gender and alignment he wants his character. We can fine-tune this all later. Same with the deity and all these things. These are... Why is it not letting me continue? Oh, there we go. Now we have to assign our statistics, our ability, our attribute points, our ability scores. Now we can do this manually. We can also use one of the standard arrays, which will drop points in for us. And we can also choose for me. Let's see what it does for that. Lots of points into strength. That is our primary ability as a fighter. And then a fair number of points in dexterity, which will help our armor class, some initiative stuff, some saving throws. It's actually pretty good. Now, we're not putting a bunch of points in Constitution, which does hurt our hit points somewhat, but as a fighter, he'll still get a fair amount of hit points, and the Dexterity will really help him. It ties into some of his Slayer abilities. So I kind of like that. That might be a good idea. Of course, we would get more points if we went with, say, the 16 and 16 build. Oh, and we're adding +2 to our Strength. So this would give us a slightly higher Dex, which is nice, and slightly more Constitution. We could go with the 16, 14, 14 build, which would give us even slightly more hit points. So mostly the difference between these two, well, it improves our charisma as well. And frankly, I don't care about the charisma that much. But you know what? To be honest, I think we will lower the base score to a 16, which should... How do we see how many points we've got left? Oh, that's assign array. Let's do a point by system. Now we can dump some points into here. Yeah, that's pretty good. And then we've got 3 points left, which I think we can use to buy up our strength by 1. And going from an 18 to a 19 doesn't actually do anything for us, but if ever we level up, I think it'll be good. So this will generate quite a few more hit points than we would have had with the 20 strength, and I think it's better, to be honest. No one wants to be squishy, so strength con is good. In exchange for slightly less strength, I think is worth it personally, but you know, to each his own. Next, trained skills. We get to choose 4 trained skills. These are our skills that we're very good in. In 4th edition, you don't spend skill points the same way in 3rd ed. Instead, you just pick some skills that you're trained in, and you get a significant bonus to using those. And later on, you can add more trained skills if you want. To me, it sounds like this guy should definitely have Intimidate, because that sounds about right, and probably Endurance. And actually, of the skills he can choose, he only had a choice of 5, and we get to choose 4 of them, so we only are going to be ignoring one. Athletics sounds like it fits, and then the only question is, what makes more sense, heal or streetwise? I mean, I don't see him as a priest, obviously, but as a trained warrior, knowing the heal skill, being able to do first aid, that seems like it fits. Streetwise, yeah, I don't know. He even has a penalty to charisma to start off with, so streetwise is never going to be particularly good. Although his heal is not much better either. You know, maybe he doesn't fit in with the street element. If he has to deal with those people, he just is likely to intimidate them. I'm getting a sort of a very formal vibe. Just what I'm thinking. That doesn't mean that's the way Niiks is going to take his character, and of course he may want to change these things. But in my head, that's the thing I've got. Like this sort of battle-trained warrior that's been taught by some of the greatest soldiers in the land, and that's where he gets his skills. So yeah, we'll pick up heal. That sounds pretty useful. And all these skills are actually quite good when you play. There's not much of a bad selection, to be honest. So yeah, all right, we'll go with that. Next, now we have to choose our powers. Now this is actually interesting. The first thing we've got to do is choose 2 stances for the fighter, and this is something I'm not actually familiar with. So let's take a look at what we've got here. So we've got a list of 6 possible stances we can take. And that's really interesting. You just turn on this stance, and then you get to stay in it until you turn it off, basically. And it's a minor action, so it's basically free to swap from one stance to another. So I'm actually going to have to read these because I don't know what they are. I could go choose for me, but I'm curious as to what they do. Actually, we'll go choose for me, see what they choose, and then we'll choose them both, and then see what that actually means and what it gives us. So the first stance they gave us is something called Mobile Blade. You assume the Mobile Blade stance. Until the stance ends, whenever you hit an enemy with a basic attack using a weapon, you can move a number of squares up to your Dexterity modifier as a free action. Alright, so what this means is, when we've got this on, when we hit someone, we can move. And that's kind of interesting. Battlefield mobility is very important in 4th edition. Okay, what's the other one it gives us? Poise attack. I noticed that one moves you a number of squares equal to your Dexterity modifier, which is why Dexterity is important for this type of build. Some builds don't need it. Okay, you assume the Poised Assault stance. Until the stance end, you get a +1 power bonus to the attack rolls of basic attack using weapon. Now this is very interesting, that these both apply to basic attacks. Very interesting, and I don't know if I want to explain why that is. Are they all like that? This is +2 damage to basic attacks, +2 speed when charging, and +2 to the attack roll. Actually, I really like the Berserker's Charge, to be honest. Duelist's attack, +4 bonus to melee weapon damage rolls with base attack against a target that has no creatures adjacent to it other than you. So this is if you're one-on-one, you can do crap tons more damage. Kind of like that, to be honest. You assume the Unfettered Fury stance, -2 to attack rolls, +4 to damage. Okay, so this is if you want to be less accurate but do more damage. You know, okay, so Poised Assault is +1 to hit with basic attacks. It's pretty good. I guess this Slayer, maybe he works completely differently for most of these things. Oh, you only get to be in one stance at once, though, I think. Right, so you can't use them to stack. I really like the Duelist Assault, because frankly, there's a lot of situations where you can get one-on-one with someone, and being able to add +4 damage is a lot. I don't care so much about the Mobile Blade, and I have to think that I'm specifically into either the Poise Assault for +1 to hit, or actually the Berserker's Charge, because +2 speed is okay, but then it's a +2 to hit when you're doing a charge attack, and that is quite nice, I think. Because I could see you charging a guy who's out by himself, getting a bunch of damage this way, and then next round switching to your Duelist stance. I'm gonna go with that. That sounds good to me. Can't be bad. You really? Those are the powers? That is so odd. And incredibly different from a normal fighter. Wow. Okay. Feats. Alright, feats are very nice and highly customizable things you can add to your character. At level 1, everyone gets one, and Niiks here will get a second one because he's human. Humans get a second one. Suggestions. Wow! There are a few suggestions. There's 15 feats they're actually suggesting for us. And then beyond that, there's 8 racial feats. These are the ones you can only take because you're human. 13 class feats you can only get because you're a fighter. And 80 more generic feats that you can take. Oh, actually. There's 80 more generic feats. And then there's 23 multi-class feats. Like, let's say, I want to be a fighter, but I want to add in a touch of Warlord as well, and take the Insightful Leader feat. Now I have some of the abilities that a Warlord has, even though I'm still a fighter. Bloodline feats. Holy crap, they've added tons of stuff. Vampiric Heritage. Ooh, that sounds pretty sexy. Arena fighting styles. The Hunting Spider style. This is crazy. Wow, they've added so much to this game. Let's just focus on the suggestive ones. Suggestive ones? Yeah, baby. You know all about my armor finesse. Row. Okay, ignore check penalty for wearing armor. Combat advantage against all enemies during your first turn to encounter. Well, that's quite cool, actually. Combat advantage basically gives you +2 to hit against someone, if I recall correctly. So in the first round, when we're doing our crazy-ass charge move, we could get an extra +2 to hit from having combat advantage. There's some value in that. Alertness is always nice, gives you a bonus to perception checks. You won't be as surprised. Defensive mobility, +2 bonus against opportunity attacks. Okay, opportunity attacks tend to get triggered when you do stuff like when you move, when you're next to someone, they get free attacks against you. So this will give you a bonus against that. Disciple of Strength. Number of healing surges increases by 2. That lets you be a lot more durable, yeah. Eager Advance. +4 feet bonus to speed on your first turn during an encounter. Wow, you could really turn this guy into a crazy, first round dude. Now, the thing is, he already gets a pretty big bonus to speed and to hit on his first round with that stance, so I don't think these are worthwhile for him. There's something to be said about making yourself, really good in one area, but I think it might just be overkill. You won't need that many pluses. Heat Adaptation. Resistance to fire. Yeah, cool, but why does this character have it? And how useful is it necessarily going to be? Now this is valuable. Heavy Armor Agility. Normally when you're wearing heavy armor, you get a penalty to your speed. And this guy sounds like he should probably be fairly mobile. Well then, if he's being fairly mobile, then he wouldn't want to wear heavy armor. Why don't we take this? Yeah, I like that, and that sounds like the sort of thing you would gain after a whole lot of training. I like that. Are you going? Or are you going to crash on me again? Hello? Are you kidding me? Okay, so it finally went. Alright, now second feat. What are we going to... Let's keep looking into this. Master of Arms certainly sounds good. +1 feat bonus to attack rolls of weapon attacks. You can also use a minor action to sheath a weapon and then draw a weapon. Oh, that's very good, because that usually takes up quite a bit of your turn to swap weapon. You just get +1 to hit on all your weapon attacks? Well, that sounds pretty good. What else we got? Bonus to saving throws, yeah. Okay, bonus to your fortitude, defense. Better healing surges, so you heal just more. That's nice. You can break off ongoing damage. That's good. Toughness is nice, you just get more hit points, but we're going to be okay on hit points. I think we got to take that Master of Arms. Again, it just makes sense with this guy's military training, doesn't it? I think it does. Next. Equipment. Excellent. Yeah, let's buy some gear. This screen's changed a lot, so I'm not 100% sure exactly how it works. So we start off with 100 gold pieces. And what are we going to get? Well, first of all, let's take a look at our weapons. Now, we clearly are going to want a two-handed weapon of some kind. And what kind are we going to want? To me, I think a greatsword is probably the most fitting, personally. It's such a classic weapon. It's certainly a very fine and good weapon. So let's buy one of those. Cha-ching, and let's get some armor. And yeah, we'll probably start with scale armor. Scale armor is the best armor that you can start with. Later on, you can upgrade your the full plate if you really wanted to. But this tends to be a little bit better. You can see here that the scale armor actually has a -1 speed penalty, but of course we're going to get to ignore that. Hooray! We're awesome. So yeah, we'll buy some scale armor. Awesome. And we also need an adventurer's kit. Very, very important. We're going to buy that as well. We've got 10 gold pieces left. That's probably pretty good. So an adventurer's kit comes with a backpack, a bedroll, a flint and steel, a belt pouch, 2 sun rods, which are like magic or rather alchemical torches, 10 days worth of trail rations, 50 feet of rope, and a water skin. So it's very nice. In previous editions, you always had to buy these like one at a time and whatever, you know. And then you'd start adventuring and realize you forgot to pick up rope. That was always embarrassing. So that's a very standardized set of equipment. Awesome. And we're going to tell them we're going to equip the greatsword, equip the scale armor, and good to go. We've got 10 gold pieces left over for some little spending money. I think that's a pretty good way to start. Next, we're done. Got nothing to do. We've got everything completed. We can take a look. We can save this first of all. Doom, 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 doom. Doom, 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 doom. Okay, I believe that is saved, and we can double check the character sheet here. Yep, there we are. And multiple pages. So what's going to happen is, actually, I guess I'm going to print this out, make it a PDF, and post it for Niiks, and see what he thinks about it, and we can make some adjustments and tweaks. Oh, we did get some... What do we get? Yeah, it's really interesting. Normally you get to choose a lot of these powers, but this Slayer works quite a bit differently. So here you can see the abilities that Niiks will have in combat. This is your standard basic melee attack. Okay, your strength versus AC. Yeah, we'll explain what all these rules do. But yeah, you just hit someone. Standard ranged attack. Not that he has a ranged weapon, but if he did, these are the specs he would be using. This one here is already calculated if he's using a greatsword. You can see his total is going to be a +9 to hit bonus versus the enemy's armor class, which is very nice. Greatsword does 1d10 points of damage, a 10-sided die worth of damage, +6 just because of his strength and I guess, yeah, because of his strength. And then the other things he has, at will, he can swap between his 2 stances. The Berserker's Charge, very good at charging, and then once he's in there, Duelist Assault. I suppose one thing that's happened here is if he doesn't have anyone he can charge at, because he's in the thick of combat, and at the same time he doesn't have anyone solo, none of these stances are going to be particularly useful, so maybe we will want to change one. Maybe we'll keep the charge and then swap this for the generic +1 to hit one, because +1 to hit's really good. And the reason, yeah, I don't know. I'm going to post this as is and see what Niiks has to say. And then these are encounter powers. Once per encounter, you can use each one of these. These both work based on a trigger. So this is when you hit someone with a melee attack, then you can deal an extra weapon worth of damage. That's what it means, 1W here. So basically he's going to hit him for an extra 10-sided die worth of damage. Once per combat, you can focus fire and do really nice damage that way, actually. And heroic effort. This is when you miss an attack or fail a saving throw, you can trigger this and add +4 to your roll. So if you just barely miss an attack, you click this on, and now you've landed the hit. Very, 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 very good. Really, really like that quite a bit. And so these things all mean that he's going to be hitting regularly, and once per attack he can hit someone extremely hard. And of course, if he singles someone out solo, he's going to hit them for tons of damage. tons of damage. The only thing that I'm questioning is the fact that both of these are fairly circumstantial, and maybe one of them should be swapped out for the +1 to hit, or the +2 to damage, or the -2 to hit, +4 to damage one. But yeah, we'll check with him. Alright, I hope you enjoyed this little demo of what it's like making a 4th edition character, and you will see more of these as I build characters for other players. See you next time, folks. Bye-bye.